Glad everyone had a good lunch. We've alternately called this the game-changing projects or the high-impact projects. I personally like high impact. For those of you that have led these, it does feel like you've been worked over by the front line of the Ottawa Red Blacks by the time you're done. So they have an impact not only on the city, but on those that are leading them. Really happy that that ZIBI, we spoke on this panel a couple of years ago, and for those of you that haven't been down to the ZIBI site recently, hopefully you see the kind of impact that's happening. We've got some of the team members from ZIBI right here if anyone wants some more information, but our zero carbon district energy system is up and running. And this is a district energy system that does not use offsets. We don't burn anything and heat and cool in this this environment. That is incredible. Thank you. Thank you. But it's also a place where you can live, work, and play. The parks, both ourselves and our neighbors at Hydro have done a tremendous job of reopening the Chaudière Falls to the public. If you haven't been down there, go down and take a look at the parks. And especially right now with the river running high, it's a great time to get out and see the Chaudière Falls. And one of the best ways to see the whole area happens to be on a zip line, so you can get 140 feet up off the river and go and take a look. Today, Mary Rowe and several of our speakers were talking about we need to be thinking about the future of our city, not the present. And today I'm really eager to welcome 4 people that are living in the future and thinking about the future on some projects that are going to really be game-changing for the city. And just to give you a sense as to how important these projects are, just by a show of hands, who here has not had a family member, you personally or a friend, be to the Civic Hospital anytime in the last year? Oh no, who has not? Sorry, has not. Okay, not a hand in the room goes up. Or very few, you might be from out of town. Who here has not used a pathway, the Gatineau Park, been down to Spark Street for Ribfest? Again, everybody uses NCC infrastructure. Who here has not, well actually this might be a little tough, Mark, I apologize because we've been shut down, but who hasn't seen the Red Blacks win a Grey Cup? Who hasn't been to a concert down here? And who's not sitting in Lansdowne right now? And of course, I don't think anybody in the region doesn't depend heavily on our airport. So I'd like to welcome to the stage right now Marc Laroche from the Ottawa Airport. I'd like to welcome Marc Goudie from Lansdowne. I'd like to welcome Véronique de Pasillé from the National Capital Commission and Cameron Love from the Ottawa Hospital. Welcome. So while these brave and fearless leaders come up, the format today is we're going to get an overview of each of the projects or areas that each of these leaders are working on, and then have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. Everyone's going to present for about 10 minutes, and we're starting with our friend Cameron Love, one of the most important projects going to happen in the region. Cameron.
Thanks very much, Jeff, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here to talk to you about what we're building from a perspective of a world-class hospital here in Ottawa. So, you know, the last couple of years, there is no question, it has probably been the most challenging time of healthcare we've had in decades. But it's also been one of the more challenging times we've seen for all communities, province, the country, and across the globe. As we start coming out of the pandemic, though, like every major crisis over the last century, there are always things to be learned from, and there's always opportunity. And I think one of the underpinnings to the pandemic is that if people didn't understand the importance of healthcare before the pandemic, they definitely understand it now. And as we look forward going into the future, I can tell you, having been in this industry and in this city for 25 years, this is probably the most exciting time we have ever had in this city in terms of building an incredible facility. And while it'll be a 2.5 million square foot facility that'll provide state-of-the-art world-class care, and it probably will provide it'll be some of the most advanced building infrastructure, not only in Canada, but possibly across North America, it's not really what we're building. And what I want to talk to you about today is what we're really building, is we're building the future of healthcare here in Ottawa for our patients, our families, and this community for generations to come. And if you can give me a couple minutes, I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture of how important a time we are in terms of healthcare within this community and what this new campus will do. So if you think about this community, we have one of the fastest growing populations in Canada, but we have one of the fastest aging populations as well. And unfortunately with age typically comes more incidents associated with healthcare and disease. And so our capacity is absolutely critical from a healthcare perspective. The standards of healthcare are completely evolving. They evolve at an incredible rate. And so when you look at having single private rooms, when you look at the use of natural light, when you look at infection control standards of what we did pre-pandemic versus what we have to do now, it is a daylight and dark discussion. And that is absolutely critical to the future of healthcare. The number of traumatic events we have as a growing city, acts of violence, car accidents, major disasters like the bus crash, natural disasters, the need to have a strong response system and a healthcare system to be able to support people when at their most vulnerable time is absolutely critical. We're also in the nation's capital, and if you go to any major city and their capital, they typically have a very robust health system, and unfortunately, they tend to see various acts and incidents that occur, whether it's things like the demonstration, the shooting on the Hill, and other major events. The capitals tend to be targeted from a perspective of those types of incidents. And having a strong response where a community rallies together is absolutely critical. The digital revolution is unbelievable in healthcare in terms of the pace of how we're evolving. And I can tell you, experts suggest that over the course of the next decade, the advancements in healthcare through research, innovation, the digital platform will dwarf what's happened over the last century. The need to attract health professionals is more important than ever. We've been absolutely hit through the pandemic in terms of the number of professionals that we've either lost and the pace at which we're growing. So the ability to retain people in our community and the ability to recruit is absolutely critical. And then I think the other real factor that we're dealing with is planetary health risks and challenges. There's no question for our hospital, for this community, and for the entire planet that risk is real, and the need to make sure we are building really strong, efficient, and energy-enabling buildings going forward is absolutely critical. So those are the challenges, and it gives you a bit of a perspective on this. What I can unequivocally tell you is what we're building with the new Civic will address the large majority of them and many more, and really build the future of healthcare for this community. We're adding hundreds of beds to deal with the capacity challenges. Operative environments like ORs, the way they were 30, 40 years ago versus what we're doing in the ORs today is completely different. And for us to keep pace in terms of evolving the technology and being able to have advanced technology that changes every single year so we can compete worldwide in terms of saying we provide the best care, this infrastructure is a huge game changer. We're developing a state-of-the-art trauma center. And as I said before, the number of incidents we're seeing continues to climb. And unfortunately, while we all don't want to see those things happen, in the reality, and as a city of 1 million plus that's growing at the rate we're growing and supporting all of this region plus Western Quebec, we will see more of these incidents. I can unequivocally tell you, we have one of the best trauma teams in Canada for sure, but with the state-of-the-art technology and building we're building, this will probably be one of the best trauma centers worldwide. And that's very much how we're building this platform. A key mandate for us is how we treat and manage patients and ensure they receive compassionate care. But more and more, it's not just about the patient, it's about the family. And so part of building this building, and we can't do it in the old infrastructure we have, is how do we create environments that holistically support patients and families and ensure we continue to provide world-class care, but also compassionate care on a go-forward basis. The efficiency of this healthcare system needs to be dramatically improved. There's been lots of articles on it, and there is a lot of truth to that, where there is so much opportunity. But when you look at what this campus will do from the perspective of creating integrated models, how we're going to use digital platforms, and what we can use for artificial intelligence, it will completely revolutionize the way we provide programs and services. It'll be very much value-driven. And most importantly, it'll focus on providing care to the person in the community and not just the patient in the hospital. Two other points that I think are really critical. One is that I commented on this is a war on talent. And you know what, in this industry, it is an extremely competitive market. We're very fortunate to have recruited people all across the globe, but as we look forward in the number of people we need to hire to be able to maintain access to healthcare, and most importantly, be able to provide high quality care, this building becomes a magnet. Most experts and professionals worldwide, they go to where the infrastructure is, allows them to do their research and innovation and provide great care. So our ability to recruit and retain those experts, both locally, nationally, and internationally, this will absolutely position us to create a world-class center because of those experts that puts us in the same league of places like Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Cleveland Clinic, and Mass General in Boston. The other real component, key component, I've mentioned this, is what we do in terms of this infrastructure of setting us up to become a carbon neutral footprint in the future. Hospitals are huge in terms of energy usage, waste, how we deal with water, how we deal with noise and pollution. This has to be a focus for us, and it is one of the key principles in terms of rebuilding this center so that we do our part in terms of creating a strong and vibrant building, but is very much geared towards improving from a planetary health perspective. And then the last point I want to touch on is, which is a lot of why we're here today, is the significant economic impact this organization is going to have. So we're the third largest employer in Ottawa. The feds are first, the city's second, and we're third. From the point of view of this development alone over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, 20,000 new jobs. But that's only the starting point. After it opens, we'll add somewhere in the range of 4,000 new jobs to manage access to healthcare and inject about $2 billion in terms of the economic impact post-opening in terms of healthcare programs will run. But I think as or more importantly, that is only the starting point. Our partnerships with Sheba, what we're trying to do with biotech, the development of a life sciences park, the evolution of research, and what we can do as a major player internationally, it just brings more and more investment into this community. And the opportunity for private-public partnerships are second to none. So as you can see, it is something that we are tremendously passionate about. And I think, you know, our focus has really been on how we're going to make sure we have a really strong health organization, but a healthcare system, and the future of healthcare is absolutely paramount for us. But I think we are also major players that are very committed to the health of this community. And I think part of today and the importance of this from a city building perspective is the important role we can play in terms of really developing a vibrant city for the future. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Cameron. And I have a small sense as to what you and your team at the hospital have gone through to get to this stage, what you've got a road ahead of you. So if anyone feels like it, feel free to give Cameron a hug. He could use it. And the second public service announcement I will make is when public health care gets funded in the province, a third of the public health care funding comes from the local community. There's a campaign going on now. Cameron has not asked me to do this, but I think it's critically important that our community rally behind the new hospital and the services that it'll provide. So thank you again, Cameron. Next up is one of the largest landowners in Ottawa, and therefore one of the most significant and important landowners in Ottawa, who has a number of projects going on across the city. Véronique de Pasillé, who is the Vice President of Corporate, Legal, and Government Affairs, something, yes, I'm sorry, I should have written that down, is up next to talk a little bit about some of the things going on with the National Capital Commission. Véronique.
Bonjour, bon après-midi. Je suis très heureuse d'être ici avec vous en personne aujourd'hui. Souligne et la Chambre de commerce d'Ottawa, un gros merci d'avoir invité la Commission de la capitale nationale à participer à la conversation aujourd'hui, avec d'autres organisations qui jouent un rôle central dans le façonnement de l'avenir de notre capitale. In preparing for today's remark, we took our inspiration from the Summit's team, obviously, Reimagining Ottawa. At the NCC, imagining and unlocking the potential of the national capital are central to our mandate as the main planner of the largest portion of land in the region and as principal steward of federal lands in the region. We are entering a new phase of the pandemic, coming out of a world-changing moment in time. Locally, February's illegal occupation in the downtown further impacted our shared sense of security and our views on access to the national capital core. Now more than ever, we collectively can think more clearly about the future of the national capital region and the intersecting principles that must guide our planning. Principles like tolerance, diversity, inclusion, equality, accessibility, and of course, sustainability. I'm excited to see that this rethink is already underway across the region, and that so many of you here today are already deeply involved in this work. With that in mind, I propose to share with you some highlights of how every day the NCC is hard at work to reimagine the National Capital Region. So as we think of the Capital Region in 10 years from now, we must begin in the downtown cores of Ottawa and Gatineau. A vibrant core is vital to the overall health of our region. It's a key stimulator of economic activity, but more than that, it's a distinctive part of the capital that is crucially shared by everyone. It emphasizes the capital history, our identity, and national significance, serving as a magnet to attract visitors and as a draw for residents who are seeking a more connected and diverse downtown. It's why, I keep pressing too fast. It's why I find important to share with you that we are currently developing an engagement strategy for revising the NCC Capital Core Area Sector Plan. Last revised in 2005, the plan sets out how federal lands in the heart of the capital will be developed. And I know this morning you had some conversation about this. The much-needed update will give us an opportunity to express an overarching vision for the core that is in keeping with the plan for Canada's capital. Another major project underway right now is the redevelopment, is the redevelopment of Nepean Point into a lively, accessible 21st century gathering place. Set to reopen next year, the reimagined urban park will become a must-visit destination for residents and tourists. With 2 levels of spectacular views, a beautiful shelter, and a new footbridge connecting it to Major Hill Park, the site will tell the story of our history and our enduring relationship with the Ottawa River and the Algonquin Nation. Moving to Confederation Boulevard, the symbolic heart of our nation. Our colleagues at PSPC are already leading the revitalization of Center Block, a grand and complex heritage rehabilitation project, like Federico was mentioning earlier. We can all picture how Wellington Street could both enhance the splendor of these important buildings, of the most important buildings in the country, and make this area a more welcoming place for walking, biking, and other forms of public transportation, of active transportation and public transportation. Pour donner suite au budget fédéral de 2021, la CCN a mis sur pied un bureau de transport en commun. Le bureau démontrera le leadership de la CCN en matière de planification de la mobilité interprovinciale, dans un contexte où une vision régionale s'avère de plus en plus importante. Ayant un rôle unique dans le projet de tram que la Société de transport de l'Outaouais veut implémenter au cœur de la capitale, le bureau de transport de la CCN pourra contribuer au volet touchant le pont du Portage et la rive ontarienne. À plus long terme, le bureau de transport continuera de planifier pour la réalisation d'une boucle. On aimerait réimaginer ce que pourrait avoir l'air le boulevard de la Confédération en reliant ce système de transport des 2 côtés de la rivière. Now over to Le Breton. Together with the Algonquin Nation, business leader, and the community, the NCC is bringing back energy to this historic part of our capital that has been left untouched for too long. The mix of urban living, recreation, nature, climate-smart development is a wonderful example of sustainable and integrated urban planning. In January, we announced that Dream Le Breton was the successful proponent to develop the first phase of the project. This will be one of Canada's largest residential zero-carbon developments. This new community will feature affordable housing for priority population identified in Canada's national housing strategy. Also indicated earlier this spring, multiple bids were received in our response to call for ideas for 2 major attraction sites that will serve as destination anchors at Le Breton. We've dedicated a lot of time and a lot of effort to getting this process right, and we look forward to sharing an update with the public later this month. So in closing, the National Capital Region is an extraordinary place filled with precious heritage buildings, glorious urban parks, forests, trails, national landmarks that all hold special place in the hearts and minds of Canadians. It's a privilege to play such an important role, along with all of you partners, in preserving and enhancing it for the benefit of many future generations. Thank you very much.
Merci pour partager tous ces projets vraiment importants pour la région, Véronique. And I shout out to the National Capital Commission for doing something that I was really impressed with on Victoria Island, which is very important to our indigenous population in Canada. They hired an Algonquin-owned and led contracting company to do all of the remediation there. So putting your money where your mouth is, I was really happy to see you do that. So our next speaker, I'm very much looking forward to hearing from. Lansdowne has become such a central part of my life. I know Joey's has half-price wine on Wednesday nights, I seem to remember. But this has really been a gathering place, a go-to place in Ottawa. So Lansdowne 1.0 has done a tremendous amount for our city. I'm very much looking forward to hear about 2.0. And over to you, Mark.
Now, I wish I was Cameron Love and could speak without notes, hardly looking down at all, but I don't possess that as part of my repertoire, so you have to bear with me. When we talk about Lansdowne 2.0, it's probably the wrong name for it. It probably should be Lansdowne 20.0. Lansdowne has a storied 150-year history that includes a place from where troops went off to war once upon a time, attendance of 250,000 in 1947 for what was, to that point, the largest religious gathering in the world, awarding of a Stanley Cup back here in 1904, stock car and horse racing, the Ottawa X that ran for over 120 years, tons of concerts including The Who, my favorite U2 with the Unforgettable Fire Tour, which was awesome, Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, Queen, Supertramp, tons of sports including professional football, hockey, baseball, and lacrosse, as well as national and international soccer, curling, figure skating, and other championships. As you likely know, the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group partnered with the City of Ottawa to bring this tired, old historic site back to life in 2014. Since then, Lansdowne has recaptured its position as Ottawa's gathering place and is the hub of sports and entertainment in our region. A site that attracted about 250,000 people before 2014 has grown to over 4 million people annually. It has also allowed us to reintroduce CFL football to Ottawa with our Red Blacks, kept its 67s with the best jerseys in all of hockey in Ottawa, brought professional soccer with Atletico and professional basketball with the Blackjacks to our region. We've hosted a Grey Cup, an outdoor hockey game between the Senators and the Montreal Canadiens, as well as welcomed the world for the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup. Ottawa has also been able to continue its tradition of hosting many other Canadian and international sports championships, including curling, figure skating, volleyball, and youth sports. We've introduced Ottawa's first Christmas market back in 2019, and we've produced over 1,000 other concerts, festivals, and other super fun events in our 8 short years. However, I think if we had the opportunity to roll the tape back to 2010, OSEG and the city would have likely done a couple of things different, two specifically. First, we would have fought harder to replace all of the aging 1967 sports facilities, not just the condemned ones. And second, more residential density should have been part of Lansdowne 1.0. We've now reached a point where the beloved Ottawa Civic Centre and Northside stands that have been the source of so many memories, including mine as somebody who grew up and has spent their whole career in Ottawa, have reached their end of useful life. As our fancy engineers call it, functional obsolescence, and that's very sad. If you sit on the north side stands, you might have experienced functional obsolescence for yourself if you got to use one of the 65 porta potties that we bring into Red Blacks games every game. And that's also very sad. It's embarrassing to us and it's embarrassing to Ottawa. Shows and events are passing Ottawa by because we don't have the technical or logistical requirements in our 54-year-old facility to house them. It hasn't been kept up to date and simply can't handle the logistical requirements of today's modern shows and events. And it only gets worse. We proudly think of ourselves as a world-class city and look to demonstrate that to the outside world. To be a truly world-class city, we need world-class destinations, and we need world-class attractions, and we need world-class public spaces, and world-class arts and entertainment, and world-class hospitality, and world-class infrastructure. These are the type of cities that are able to attract and retain people and workers in a world where mobility and what word is that? I wrote transiency. Is transiency a word? We'll go with it. Transiency and mobility are accelerating. We know that Lansdowne and what we do in such a historic and beautiful location in the heart of our city, beside the World Heritage Rideau Canal, are an important part of that. The evolution of Lansdowne is about continuing to place-make. Lansdowne 2.0 started over 2 years ago. Last year, we were asked by the city to propose what we thought the next evolution of the space that we are responsible for here at Lansdowne might look like. We were given three conditions. One, that we replace the old Centennial Arena and North Stadium stands. Two, that we honor the 2010 guiding principles for Lansdowne that were developed through extensive consultation and were universally accepted at that time. And three, that we do it on a tax-neutral basis where all the money that's needed for this project is generated by the 20 acres that we are the stewards of at Lansdowne. And that's what we've done. Our proposal to the city includes a new event center, a new north side stands, and a retail podium that will become the base for more residential units. The new event center will be a standalone 5,500 seat and 6,500 capacity facility. It will be situated in the east end zone of the current stadium, joining the north and the south side stands and forming a horseshoe. The west side of the event center would be part of the stadium with suites, seating, and social spaces that can be used by both the event center and as part of the stadium for Red Blacks and other stadium events. It will have a live green roof that extends over the event center and will form part of the grass berm on the east side. That will act as a transition zone from the sports and entertainment facilities to the public green space. The new 11,200 seat and 12,000 plus capacity Northside Stadium stands offer guests with experience that resembles that of our new Southside stands. Because the Northside stands are built much more upright like the Southside stands, it creates space behind them where a two-story retail podium would replace the current retail space that abuts the stadium. The podium is set back more from the street that allows additional breathing space on Exhibition Way and opens up views from Bank Street to the Aberdeen Pavilion. The retail podium would be the base for what we have recommended as 1,200 residential mixed retail or rental and condominium units in 3 buildings. That will include 120 affordable housing units in partnership with a social housing provider. It's a whole other presentation, but the ability to address some of the environmental, sustainability, and accessibility challenge that we have, including probably being the least energy efficient building in the city's real estate portfolio, and being able to transform that into an energy efficient facility that is also able to meet and exceed modern accessibility standards is pretty exciting for us. Lansdowne 2.0 will happen in 3 phases, as it's critical that everything that we do at Lansdowne continues to happen. The 3 phases would span about 7 years and include the first being the event center, about a 2-year project. When the arena business can be moved into the event center, phase 2 would include the demolition of the old Civic Center and the demolition and rebuild of the North Stadium stands and the retail podium. Phase 3 would include the residential units. Lansdowne 2.0 is designed to be tax neutral. The entire cost of this project comes from 2 sources. the air rights and a portion of property taxes associated with the residential and new retail space, and secondly, from the Lansdowne partnership through ticket fees and through direct cash distributions from our partnership. Westeinde and Lansdowne have already become an important economic driver for our region. Our site generates between $300 and $500 million in economic activity annually and employs over 4,000 people on a full and part-time basis. The Lansdowne 2.0 project, including the residential component, will generate close to $1 billion in economic impact and include over 2,700 jobs. And when finished, Lansdowne will permanently employ an additional 600 people to the 4,000 that already currently work here. Tourism is an important part of Ottawa's economy with 11 million visitors and $3 billion in economic impact annually. And sports tourism, including what we do, is a vital and growing part of Ottawa's economic bucket. The next step in the process is for Council to review and approve, hopefully Wednesday of this week, the City staff report that was unanimously approved by FEDCO, which accepts what we have proposed, subject to more work to happen over the course of this year, provides initial funding for surveys and consulting work that is needed to inform the rezoning and site plan application that we need to go through, and provides for an extensive public and stakeholder consultation process on our proposal and on what Lansdowne 2.0 should look like. With Council approval, this work will happen over the next year, and we expect to be back before Council about this time next year, where hopefully this project is approved. We're extremely proud of our partnership with the City of Ottawa and how together we've been able to transform Lansdowne back into Ottawa's gathering place. We're also proud of the role that we play in the psyche, pride, and overall health and well-being of our community and our region. Lansdowne's an important neighborhood, regional, and tourist destination. We are Ottawa's sports and entertainment hub, and we look forward to continuing to provide exceptional hospitality and continuing to make memories for generations to come. Thank you to Sue Ling and the Board of Trade for their continued support and cheerleading that they do on our behalf, and I'm sure they do on behalf of all of you folks as well. Thank you.
So Mark, you might not be able to be Cameron Love, but when you made that comment, I looked and saw both of you in profile, and you could definitely be his brother. So I noticed about 10, maybe 15 years ago, a transition in Ottawa that I think as a city, we started to think like we were a small, big city. Versus before, I think we thought we were a big, small city. And I put a lot of credit on that to Lansdowne and the things that you attracted to the city, the kind of thinking that our municipality had to do to make that happen. So a big thank you for that, and really look forward to seeing you progress at Lansdowne 2.0. Jim Watson was here this morning, and one of the things he made very clear, and I want to echo it, is I think the business community, that's those of you here and those that aren't here, should get behind projects like this, make sure our voices are heard. It is, I can speak firsthand that there is always a small minority of people that speak very loudly, that sometimes put a stick in the spokes. And it's really important that the business community get out and talk about how important these kinds of projects are to the city. So an important vote coming up this week. Our last speaker is a key part of why I came back to Ottawa. I remember 2001, I came home to Ottawa. One of the reasons why I decided to come home was an amazing quality of life, as everybody knows. A lot of cool things going on in the city, but more importantly, we had have a great airport. That whole industry or sector has faced some significant headwinds, and I know Mark Laroche and the team at YOW are working really hard to turn those into tailwinds. And I know one of the things that we can all do, so a little shout out is make sure when an airline tells you need to go to Montreal or Toronto to catch a flight, send them a note. Why don't I have an option to fly out of Ottawa? This is where I live. I want to fly out of Ottawa. It's happening more and more, and it's going to be a key thing to make sure that our airport remains healthy and vibrant. But Mark, to talk a little bit about how you're going to turn this into a tailwind. Over to you.
So merci, Jeff. Thank you very much. And yeah, those are good messages. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, and thank you for sticking around for the last presentation of the day. Okay, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but anyways, it's the last one. Suling, thank you for all the great work that you and your team are doing to advance Ottawa's ambitious agenda for the future. We've heard some impressive plans from my panel colleagues. I have watched Mark, Cameron, Véronique work through the challenges thrown at them by the pandemic in parallel with working on the exciting developments they shared today. It occurred to me more than once that YOW can play a small part in their projects. For OSEG to reimagine Lansdowne Park and build their sports franchise into tourism assets in their own right, the airport plays a pivotal role. Cameron talked about the Ottawa's Hospital ambitious plan to build a world-class health facility that attracts top talents from around the world. That talent will be arriving and commuting through YOW's doors for work and for leisure. Véronique, avec la ceinture verte qui entoure notre infrastructure, il va de soi qu'on doit collaborer ensemble pour la planification. In other words, we are all interconnected, and our individual success is our mutual success. Now that recovery is underway, things are also busy and looking up at YOW. With people looking forward to travel, airlines continue to adjust their supply to what our city and region market demands. Currently, YOW air travel is at approximately 65% of what it was in 2019. With an important fixed cost base, we need to be at 75% of our pre-pandemic passenger volume to attain financial sustainability or to break even. Every single day since air travel came to a near standstill in March 2020, we have been operating at a loss and had to borrow $100 million to keep the lights on this important infrastructure. While losses are shrinking, thanks to both our cost-cutting efforts and the return of air travelers, we remain laser-focused on achieving financial sustainability early in 2023. Pre-pandemic, our priority was YOW Plus, Terminal Revitalization Project. The program had 4 pillars. The first was to move the domestic pre-board screening checkpoint to level 3, which we completed last year. Concession renewal, our pillar 2, has advanced after a lengthy pause. It will continue over the coming year or so as the Canal Market Hall food and beverage area is completed by early next year and more stores and restaurants are open. The Pillar 3 LRT terminal station is complete, except for a few finishing touches. It will be ready well in time to connect to the city's Stage 2 airport spur. The fourth and final pillar is the Ottawa Airport Hotel. Germain Group are also facing challenges. Our hotel partner is working valiantly to put the pieces in place to move forward, and I'm confident that they will. So what are our new priorities going forward? Well, first of all, adapting to a changing workforce and the current challenges with talent acquisition summarize our important priority. Understanding YOW's evolving passenger profile, especially the business travel component, in a post-pandemic virtual meeting reality is another priority. Providing a safe, efficient passenger experience continues to be essential, and sustainability will be a very important theme going forward. I look forward to sharing more information on this particular topic in the coming weeks with our partners at Ottawa Hydro, who have been quite busy in the last month, as we know. Together, we will be working to aggressively decarbonize our operations. Our most pressing priority is to build back our route network. After losing significant connectivity in 2020, we are working closely with our airline partners to restore nonstop service. The airlines have been very comfortable, too comfortable, hubbing service through the big 4 airports in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary. In fact, the federal government set them up to do so by imposing landing restrictions for international flights in March 2020. Despite the removal of restrictions in August 2021, airlines continue to practice that same strategy. Between Pearson and Billy Bishop, YOW feeds Toronto nearly 30 times per day. That's right, 30 times per day. Needless to say, we are fighting for change. We need our airline partners to see that Ottawa is a primary market deserving of appropriate air service for our site. Our discussions include serving the market with the right-sized aircraft to ensure long-term success. A 747, 777, or Airbus 340 or 380, for example, have way too many seats for our market. Air Canada has announced the purchase of a 182-seat Airbus A321 Neo extra long range. That's my acronyms from my table there. These transatlantic capable planes would be a perfect fit. And we are in discussion with them as we work towards the return of London Heathrow and Frankfurt service. We also have our eyes on Paris. Porter, great company, is also growing its fleet with at least 30 Embraer E195 E2 jets, which are also perfect for YOW. These planes will allow Porter to fly to the West Coast, the southern US, Mexico, and the Caribbean. As with Air Canada, we will work with the Porter team to ensure that they understand how YOW can support their aggressive network expansion plans. You've heard about the arrival of ultra-low-cost carriers to Ottawa. They are not without some challenges, but they have had success in our market. And between Flair and Swoop, they are serving 12 destinations. I believe the market has embraced their price point, and they are here to stay. The reality of air service development is that many new routes are subsidized by third parties, often government or economic development agencies. In fact, airlines now expect this. Multi-million-dollar financial incentives are common worldwide. Examples closer to home include the City of Edmonton $10 million investment, with another $5 million from their surrounding municipalities in the Edmonton Airport since 2021. The province of Nova Scotia is investing $19.3 million in 2 airports, and both Kelowna and Saskatoon airports are receiving federal funding through Western economic diversification. To be clear, these are not infrastructure dollars. These are airline route subsidies. Unfortunately, in Ottawa, we do not have access to these types of government incentives. So our air capacity has stood on its own merit, for better or for worse. Going forward, we can't go down this path alone anymore. We are proposing a framework for an air service development fund to fill this competitive gap. We hope that long-standing partners like Ottawa Tourism, City of Ottawa, City of Gatineau, and others will be enthusiastic participants in support of our long-term growth objectives. If successful, we have a good idea of our potential targets. Trust that our effort will make sense and not compromise excellent strategic partnership with our current airline partners. Whether global network or local low cost, every carrier is important to YOW and will play a vital role in our recovery. If our efforts pay off, and I believe that they will, YOW will be ready for growth. In fact, our game changer factors prominently in that belief. Last month, we broke ground on the first airside infrastructure expansion program in the Airport Authority's 20-year history. We initiated this new $15 million taxiway to accommodate the growing demands of our G7 capital airport, including the needs of the Government of Canada, for whom we have earmarked 25,000 square meters. The Canada Reception Centre, where VIPs like today from Chile, from other nations are greeted, currently occupies an old World War II era hangar, which recently had part of its roof blown off. To take a what is it called? Functional obsolescence? I think that's what they were living there. We understand that officials are deciding when the time is right to invest in a new facility. We will be ready when that time comes. We have also a private sector organization that has secured a 25,000 square meter parcel with an option to add 18,000 square meters. Add more interest from others, and I'm sure you can understand why I'm so bullish about our future and why YOW made the decision to expand its facilities even before completely recovering from the toll of the pandemic has had on our operations. I wish I could tell you more, and this is not a plug to come back next year, but I can't. The commercial agreements preclude me from discussing them in detail, but they are truly game changers. Trust that I will be more than happy to share once the time is right. The opportunities I've discussed and others that we are pursuing represents jobs and economic growth for Ottawa. We are ready to resume our role as an economic generator and hope you will get behind our requests for support. In the meantime, I would ask, like Jeff was asking at the beginning, that you include YOW in your travel plans. Every ticket that includes our airport is another demonstration to our airline partners that YOW is an important market in quantifiable and real need of more robust service. With that, I will turn the mic back to Jeff for the question and answer portion of the panel. Merci. Bonjour.
Merci, Malk, and I have been through the airport several times in the last little while. It's impressive what you've done. I think I would impress upon the folks at Pearson to give you a call to figure out how to run an airport if it was up to me. But so it's now your turn to have an impact on these impact projects. You've got some of Ottawa's greatest thought leaders here thinking about all sorts of aspects from tourism, entertainment, public realm, travel, healthcare up here. So open it up to the audience for questions. And I think, do we have mics? Yeah? Well, I'll ask a question then. So when you, and maybe I'm going to ask this of Cameron to start with, but I might turn to others as well. When you look at the Herculean effort it takes to get a project like the one you're planning off the ground, how do you keep your team focused through all of that with, you know, a lot of the to's and fro's that happen? How do you keep the team focused on the goal of building a world-class healthcare facility here in Ottawa?
Can you hear me? Yeah, good question, Jeff. So I think there's a couple things. I mean, if you look across Canada, building brand new hospitals, you can do renovation projects and lots of places do them, but building a brand new hospital, you literally only get an opportunity about every 50 years. And that's, well, we're at 100 now for the new Civic, and the General will be 50 in about 10 years from now. But it literally takes 25 years by the time you start thinking about it to the time you open it. And you look across Canada, that's pretty much a consistent scale. So I think the catch is two or threefold. One, you gotta have a team that is really driven to want to improve healthcare. I mean, you can find lots of people to build things, but you really have to have a team that is going to carry the ball the whole way through this. And we've got a spectacular team that's been with me for the entire duration over the last 10 years. And so that just drives a huge amount of energy. But I think the other more important piece is there are hundreds and hundreds of elements that can throw a project offline of this scale and magnitude. And I think the catch with this is really simplifying it down to what are the key milestones you got to achieve every year. And if you focus on those milestones, there are 1,000 things that can distract you from them. But the key is to keep focused on the milestones. And so over the course of the last few years, you've seen some of the trials and tribulations we've had. But now that we've got land, now that we're starting the parking garage, now that we've got all 3 levels of government's approval, we're now into final design. We'll put the project out this July, August for the first phase to select a consortia. And now we're into the final design stages. Once the project starts construction, I've never opened an office building, other than, running various places where we have office buildings. Opening a hospital literally takes years to plan to be able to, because you can't just transfer, a couple patients here and there. You literally on a Saturday to a Monday, flip 1,000 beds from one to another. So, there's a whole series of milestones that I think really keep us on track, and that is the key thing that has really helped us move through.
Thanks, Cam. I have a lot of questions, so I can keep asking if no one else has any, but any questions out there? All right. Oh, Mr. Lazenby.
Public sentiment or support, or what's the big deal? What's the big worry?
And actually, I'll repeat the question just quickly, Mark, so everyone on the other side. So what is the biggest concern that Mark has about Lansdowne 2.0? Is it public sector support or otherwise?
It's probably more general than that, just deferral, right? Just keep kicking it down the road. These facilities should have been replaced back in 2012 to 2014. So, I think for me, the biggest concern is we just keep pushing it forward and solving it some other day. It's a tough message right now, right? Like our north side stands suck, literally. But hey, come buy some season tickets. It'll be awesome, right? So we've had to focus our staff on the fact that we need to continue. It'll be awesome and incremental if it happens and when it happens, but we need to provide exceptional hospitality and entertainment to our folks and keep them focused on that. So I think, Bruce, probably apathy and just the choice to do nothing is the thing that I worry about the most.
It's a big part of our job, for sure. And, as a proud North Stand attendee back in the 70s with Tony Gabriel and Clements, watching the Grey Cup come in, I always used to say the South Side sucks, but you're right, the North Side does suck nowadays, too. So, other questions? Go ahead. Yeah. No, Ian, beside you. Chivalry is not dead, Ian.
I think a question around the airport outlook. The business travel is coming back, but not quite. Recreational travel is also coming back, but slow. What is the outlook for the airport? And I know in the past we tried to champion for Ottawa being a hub, and if travel is down, if we look at the federal government workforce staying home, not travel as much, what is your view of business coming back, supporting the traffic, and also supporting the ask for the airlines to use Ottawa as a hub?
Thank you very much. Very good question. We've been trying to forecast every 2 weeks, and we constantly have to change it. But in general, what we're seeing is leisure travel is probably going to overperform compared to pre-pandemic. And business travel, we're not certain. It's going to lag. That's a certainty. There's too much there. There's too much going on with our principal employer still working remotely. A lot of meetings are virtual, so it's going to be between 50 and 100%. And how long that will take to get back, it's anyone's guess. It may be just organic growth that brings up our numbers. That being said, we have projects that are working hard to change the flight pattern at Ottawa. Like, we don't want to have to go through Toronto 30 times a day. Like, we want our direct routes. So that's going to be a focus of our attention, is to get more direct route. And if we're even more successful, is to get people to connect through Ottawa. And if Toronto continues doing such a good job, that should happen eventually. And so that's our dream. But that's a stretch goal. It's a stretch goal that my senior management team that's here, that our board is focused on getting done. And I hope that to see some concrete projects in the near future. But those are projects that take a long time. An airline to make a decision to purchase an aircraft is done years in advance. So now we've just been through the pandemic, so we're really engaging with all our airlines to work on those primary objectives.
So the Board of Trade is really proud and delighted to be able to sponsor this City Building Summit. Sue Ling is here and paying attention to so many needs in our community. I'm here with board colleagues at this table, and we've heard a number of asks. I want to ask from a Board of Trade perspective to each of our panelists, what's the single biggest thing that the Board of Trade can do for advocacy on your behalf?
Maybe we'll start with Véronique.
Reach out, talk to us. We want to reach out to you. Influence when we look at development projects and we do our due diligence on big development. The more we talk with all of your organization and each and every one of you, the more we can ensure that big projects have success. So don't be afraid to reach out to us, and you have our commitment that we want to work with every one of you.
Mark Goudie.
The Board of Trade in Sue Ling is awesome. I feel like a giant-sized mosquito pest all the time, pestering Sue Ling to speak at things and talk about things, so we are well-serviced. I think back to the point I made before, it's advocacy, right? Like for our project, you'll have a vocal minority that will speak out against it and want to kick it down the road. And we've all got busy lives, but get involved in things that are going to be beneficial and game changers in our community.
Mac Laroche.
Well, the board Sue Ling has always been helpful. She gives me a call, every couple of months and asks that exact question. What we would really require is assistance when we work collaborating with other organizations in this great city, especially with the City of Ottawa. Like some of our asks are going to come with a dollar ask, obviously, but it's always put forward to grow the economic diversity, the economic engine. So view our ask as an investment, not as an expense, and continue advocating on that behalf, and it's much appreciated.
And Cameron.
So similar theme to everyone else. Healthcare is one of those things where no matter what you do, you only ever get 80% of people to agree to it. And I think we've really hit a point where if we don't really push forward with this in a significant way, I'm pretty confident to tell you we are going to compromise access to healthcare over the next 20 years, 30 years. So I think it really comes down to advocacy and support on what we're trying to do to move this thing forward, get it into the ground, get it built, get it operating. Because yes, it's a healthcare facility, but when you think about the size of the project and the impact it has in this community, the importance of this is it's a major milestone for the future of this community. And it's really a bit of a catalyst that allows other projects to evolve from it. So it really is the pin in the flywheel to keep this healthcare system being rebuilt. So I would, much like my colleagues, I would say it really is just ongoing discussions on how we can garner support from the entire community on the importance of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone, Jim Watson, when he spoke today, said the easiest thing for a politician to do is say no, or to do another study. I would really encourage people, oftentimes as business leaders, we feel like we want to stay in our own lane, not weigh in on a topic because it's not our forte. These are all community building projects that deserve our support. So absolutely weigh in, let people be heard. Just before we wrap up, I have two really softball questions for Mark Goudie. Mark, when are the Red Blacks going to win the next Grey Cup?
Well, we bounced back pretty good from a really horrible first season, 2014.
Just the year, just what year we're going to win.
Like 6 months from now.
Perfect. And the next easy question is, are the Stones coming this summer?
Believe it or not, we're having those conversations,
awesome.
And they're way back right now. But there's a chance if they stay healthy and don't keel over that we might.
I'm pretty sure Keith Richards has already left us. So we're going to wrap up. A huge thank you. I know how busy all of you are. I know how precious your time is, and for you to come and share with us some of the things that you're working on for the betterment of our region and our city is very much appreciated. And I think I can speak for everyone in the audience. You can count on our support when it's needed the most. And back over to you, Sue Ling.